Good afternoon. Thank you for inspiring and motivative presentations and workshop. It's an honor to be here. I want to use this opportunity to introduce you to EIMUR. EIMUR is everything, everywhere, and EIMUR can do anything. So I think that this is the right crew to introduce this. And I will try to make connections to the things we've been discussing here for the last couple of days, to what EIMUR is doing. So EIMUR is a cooperational project in the field of energy, environmental issues and tourism in the northeast Iceland. There are 4 founding members. These are the energy companies in the area: Landsvirkjun, Norðurorka, Orkuveita Húsavíkur, and then Eyþing, which is the Association of Municipalities in the area. Also a part of EIMUR is Iceland Geothermal Cluster, the Icelandic Tourism Cluster, and the regional development agencies. The goal of EIMUR is to encourage increased sustainability in the area. We want to do this with better utilization of resources and more knowledge about how community, environment, resources, and economy can function together. We believe that active involvement in these sectors will increase or enhance the capability of the area to tackle the challenges of the 21st century. EIMUR has a strong network in the area, and we bring together companies, scientists, public officials, entrepreneurs, investors, all with the aim of improving or increasing public and commercial knowledge. So the idea behind EIMUR is to create a foundation where ideas related to energy and sustainability can grow, and where they can become reality with the support that EIMUR can bring. We want to create a foundation to encourage better utilization of energy sources in the area while promoting more sustainable communities with varied employment opportunities. So we do focus on geothermal. The reason is we have all these geothermal fields, both high temperature fields and low temperature fields. We are located in the northeast of Iceland. Okay. And also, energy production in Iceland in 2015 came 26% from geothermal, but in northeast Iceland, 69% of the energy production came from geothermal. So it makes sense to focus on geothermal. It was decided to approach this at a wide angle, as we need to look at the nature, the society, and the economy as a whole to encourage sustainability. Knowledge creation, utilization, production, development, investment, this all has to work together. Then, of course, we have varied communities in the region with varied opportunities. So this is a lot to grasp, but we want to create opportunities for both individuals and communities, and we want to encourage them to think innovatively in regards to energy. So how do we do this? The current focus can be seen in this picture. We have been mapping different opportunities, energy-related opportunities. This helps us to choose the most appealing opportunities to support further, and this leads us to research. We are doing a lot of research, and we are working closely with the University of Akureyri, for example. We want to market the region as sustainable and environmentally friendly, while advertising the different opportunities that can be found in the region. We have been increasing the number of grants for sustainability and energy innovation. And we have been working with the tourism sector to encourage more awareness and find new opportunities in the energy-related tourism. Of course, a lot of this overlaps, and we try to draw together various partners, scientists, companies, government, investors, to make the opportunities and projects become a reality. So now I have been talking about the idea behind EIMUR. What is it that we have been doing? We did organize these idea challenge. This one is about how we can use low heat water. Some of you have heard about Vaðlaheiðargöng. When drilling through this mountain, we found a lot of hot water. This was a huge problem and delayed the project for months. But we wanted to make value out of this, and we did. The winning idea was these black caves, geothermal bath caves. There are some feasibility studies and some designing work being done right now. Another idea challenge was about geothermal and food. This one is boiling hot dogs. I don't know if you have better ideas. Or maybe sous vide. We got some better ideas, and the winning idea was actually about insects. I don't know if you can see or at least it's, yeah. Okay, so insect farm to feed the future. This has been working on, and the biggest problem here is licensing. But as we've been talking about earlier today, this is something that is probably the future. We created this green tour in cooperations with partners from the tourism sector and the energy sector. This is a package tour that revolves around sustainability, energy production and energy usage in Northeast Iceland, of course. We've been working on this infrastructure analysis, which will be presented in a website. So we are always looking at different opportunities. And we have a lot of different opportunities. We can maybe extract some minerals from the geothermal heat and use it for cosmetics. We always have to think about our special strengths or specific strengths, and we have to be resourceful. So maybe Arctic coffee could be something for us. We have to think about quality instead of quantity, as we've talked about earlier. We have everything to change from fossil fuels to electric cars today. What are we waiting for? Maybe frost roses could become a thing in Iceland. I don't know. So there are a lot of opportunities, but we have to choose the right ones. And this can be tricky. You cannot always know what works. A very good example is the shower in the Krafla area. Some of you might have seen it. There was just a worker working in the Krafla area that wanted to be funny and put the shower head there. He didn't know that it would become a huge tourist attraction. And this has been there for months. And if you Google Krafla, actually, and look at the pictures, you see a lot of pictures of this shower. Also, the electrification of the whale watching boats in Húsavík has been a great success. The carbon footprint isn't just less, there's also no sound from the engine, which makes it's actually possible to hear and listen to the whales. And yeah, so the connection with nature becomes more intense. Geothermal baths in Húsavík. Last summer we had this EIMUR summer school in cooperation with Landsvirkjun and University of Akureyri. We had 15 master students from Germany, master students in industrial design with special emphasis on sustainability. They were introduced to the Krafla area and the context we are working in, and then they were split into groups. Each group got a defined area to discover and develop a sustainable utilization solution for. This was a great success, and the end products were highly valuable for EIMUR. Maybe it's not a coincidence that all the groups talked about greenhouses. One of the group working in Bjarnarflag came up with this idea. We can make electricity, then we can heat up a greenhouse. We can have some processing of the fruits. They even designed some packaging. And of course, there is beer. There's always beer. And actually, the first batch of Krafla beer is being brewed right now. And you can see where the geothermal water is coming out there, the yellow tube. Next time you visit Northeast Iceland, just give me a call and I will be happy to taste this with you. So locals wanted fruits and they wanted beer, but tourists wanted something or better facilitates to enjoy the northern lights. So a geothermally heated bench could be a part of the solution. And this is something we are actually developing further. So maybe we can drink Krafla beer on a geothermally heated bench someday. The ideas are not always about making money. They can also be about improving the quality of life. A good example is this football field in Húsavík, which is geothermally heated all year round. An unexpected benefit from this was also that elderly people in the area can walk there all year round, so snow and slippery isn't a problem. I don't know if it makes the quality of life more if you have a geyser in your backyard, but we can all be sure about that geothermal in Iceland is making our life with more quality. So, thank you. Takk fyrir.
Well, thank you very much, Sunna. Very fascinating talk. Next up is Marit. BROMMER. She's the Executive Director of IGA, the International Geothermal Association. Marit.
Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for having me here for the past 2 days and being in a position to close and address the closing remarks to the audience. Thank you for introducing me. My name is Marit BROMMER. As you can hear, I am very Dutch, but I am based in Germany, operating the International Geothermal Association. We are a New Zealand registered society, but as I said, we operate from Germany. Geothermal, it's all about perception. That's going to be my main theme in terms of addressing the closing remarks. I had 2 fantastic days, and I thank all of you for sharing your stories and sharing with me as a person, but also with the audience, of course, your pictures on food. I specifically liked the cannabis, I have to admit, being very Dutch, so we need to talk. I'm interested in the deep EGS. It was fascinating to see how far we've come in the past years in order to accelerate that knowledge and that capacity building on deep EGS. As an IGA representative, I am convinced that EGS is going to be the game changer when we're talking about power production for geothermal. So I commend all of you who are in that space for your hard work, your sharing stories, but also your commitment to drive that change. I have to apologize. I've always pronounced George the wrong way. The opening address by the Minister of Education, Research and Science on Wednesday morning made me realize that apparently it's not Georg, it is George. And it's George who is now, if I'm correct, about 13 years old and is reaching puberty. So the perception I had on the theme of this conference in terms of new geothermal generation, in my perception we would talk about the way we produce and generate fluids that can be used for production of power plants or heat or direct uses. We're actually talking about a new generation of people. And actually, this brings the spotlight on some of the most emerging themes that I would like to talk to you about in my closing remarks as well. So thank you, George, for having me here today and addressing you all in terms of being inspired by the stories of Iceland, because every time I come to Iceland, I go away richer in my experiences, richer in my mind, in my thinking, in my creativity, but also thinking about how we can do better in terms of geothermal energy, and especially at that international level. Because I think the Icelanders, they know it, they understand it, they live it. But there are so many countries still out there that are either very, let's say, the baby George, in terms of being just maybe even being born in terms of the geothermal learning curve. But if you look at those countries who have the desire to change and the willingness to move away from fossil fuels, coal, gas, where are you, Icelanders? Bring your knowledge. Come and teach the world. So I thank you also for that. The big problem with geothermal, and I can honestly say this as a trained geologist 20 years ago in Amsterdam University, the big problem with geologists is that we have a problem of perception as well. We are, in the geothermal community, not only geologists, I am very well aware of that, there are reservoir engineers, there are subsurface production technologists, there are people looking at seismic details, but what you share is that you understand the subsurface by guessing what's underneath your feet. And I take the example of a geologist because I am a geologist. I used to study rocks, and I was quite fascinated by that, even when I was a younger kid. But look at this picture. What it tells you, that there are about 6 ways we can look at the geologist, whether it's a male or whether it's a female, okay? Because I do want to stress the point here that there are many talented female professionals here as well in that geology space. But some of them are represented here in a more male domain. So what my friends think I do is just observing stones. What my mom thinks I do, I'm probably playing around in some mud. Most importantly, what does society think that a geologist or some subsurface professional is doing? Apparently, we're a bunch of old men sitting in a cart trying to mine some coal. What other scientists think I do, well, probably the same thing as what my mom thinks I'm doing. What I think I do, well, I'm sort of, what is this man called? That was back in the days, in the 80s, it was the adventurer of the year, I think, trying to look for gold and, you know, this adventure, exploring, anything exciting that I think I do when I am a geologist. And of course, what I actually do is sit behind a PC and build bloody models. Because that is what the real average day life of a geologist is these days, is to use the computer to learn and to improve models and so on. My point about perception is that what society thinks of geothermal energy is fundamentally important. And it's probably very different than what you think you're doing in terms of geothermal energy. And I can say this very proudly because I'm very new to geothermal. I built my career in oil and gas. I come from a different discipline. Yes, I am a geologist, but I moved away from that oil and gas industry and I'm now in geothermal. And I look at this vibrant, brilliant community and I still think that we need to change our message to the outside world. Because as opposed to oil and gas, you can also argue that there are a bit of image problems with oil and gas. That's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the perception of geothermal energy in that world that is going to need to change in order to unite the geologists, the geothermalists, the passionate people who want to drive geothermal energy. And part of the problem is that, let's say, people perceive geothermal as invisible. We are not so invisible as a geothermal technology here in Iceland, but in certain countries, geothermal is absolutely invisible because it's non-existent, or when it's existent, it's only very small. One comment on the IGA, International Geothermal Association. We are representing the international community, and we try to push for geothermal energy to be on the agenda at a very high level. We have partners worldwide, such as the World Bank, the UN, the EU. Those are our strong partners in order to change the playing field, but also to level that out and to allow geothermal energy to play that and enable that energy transition from a resource point of view. The countries that you see here in orange are the IGA affiliated countries. At the moment we are with 35 countries. They are from all over the world, and we have a board of 30 people who represent the world geothermal community. In yellow are the countries who are having policies on direct uses of heating and cooling policies on direct uses. So they are thinking about implementing geothermal, but they are not there yet. So they have policies. And the blue countries are the ones who have committed in COP21 in Paris, so this is the famous Paris Agreement, to change their policies from fossil fuel-based to renewable-based. And then there are white spots. The white spots are either the countries we don't know anything about in terms of their data, in terms of their policies, in terms of their visions for geothermal / heating and cooling policies, or countries who distinctly have no information on renewable generation. I want to make a personal note here, because one big vision of the IGA is to color the world orange. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I'm Dutch. It happened to be that I was appointed as executive director because people liked the person. It was not my nativity that they wanted to see. So I want to make this point very clear that yes, I do like orange. Yes, it is my national color, but it has nothing to do with the fact that I would like to see the world covered in orange when we're talking about the IGA. The challenge that we're facing in the energy transition in general, but also in the average, let's say, daily lives that we currently are living, is that we are addicted, to my former friends. We are addicted to fossil fuels, and we have about 80% of them in that energy consumption space coming from oil and gas. So the renewable space at the moment, where we all seem to strive to accelerate that, as in terms of implementing renewable energy in a higher speed than we are currently seeing, is only actually 20% of that entire energy consumption. These are data from REN21. It's the global status update, and it comes from last year. So geothermal, as part of the 5 distinctly known renewable technologies, such as hydro, such as biogas or BAS, such as wind, and such as solar, is very minute. It's very small. It's smallest, of course, in power, because we've seen growth in solar and wind. And when we're talking about thermal, as you can see on the bottom right-hand side, about 4.1% makes up for thermal, and hence geothermal starts to play a role in that space, in heat. But still, we are minute. And it doesn't help that value proposition to our political leadership that if you are yet so small, and if you want to change people's hearts and minds, that we're even also very fragmented. We're fragmented in terms of projects on power and heat. We're fragmented worldwide. And I think this is a call for all of you to not only unite yourself in terms of a community, but also unite the message we want to display to both our political leadership, but also to society. Because society needs to understand what geothermal energy is, because I do think that one of the grand challenges for geothermal energy, especially on mainland Europe, parts in Asia and South America, is the social acceptance of drilling another well in the ground. So get our act together in terms of communicating about geothermal energy is, in my mind, vital. So I appreciate all the technology talks, and I appreciate the science, and I appreciate those grand challenges that we're facing in terms of exploring for deeper and hotter. But I also think it is about jobs. If we inspire the next generation, so the new Georges and Georginas who are coming online in the coming decades to come, we need to offer them a job. We need to facilitate a platform for young people to inspire by, but also to join in, learn and grow in their experiences, but also to drive that agenda forward. This is a picture showing from Irina, showing the job creation and the job, let's say, job opportunities there are currently in renewable. And the figure is not bad, with 10.3 million people who are employed in the renewable sector. On top is, of course, solar, because that's the biggest employer, and then it comes to wind, and all the way down there is a few jobs on geothermal. So this is 93,000 people are currently employed in direct geothermal jobs, or indirect the service industry, who have you involved around that geothermal value chain. So we're there, we're on the map, there are jobs for geothermalists, there are jobs worldwide for geothermalists, but in the IDA, what I come to see a lot is that either young people, students who are just graduated, young professionals who want to move into geothermal, senior people who want to laterally digress from, let's say, maybe an E&P, oil and gas background, they want to move into geothermal, what can we offer them? There is still not enough, let's say, jobs around to offer everybody who is interested in geothermal to step in. And I think my call for you and my address to action is really on thinking about how we can influence at that high level, how we can influence that actual projects are on the ground, because we need projects for people to work on. And that's the basic story. And of course it doesn't help when everybody, when we speak about geology, is either saying, yeah, well, it's not for me, or it says it's all about liquor and gassing. So the story, I think, is very clear that we have to inspire the next generation to think sustainably, but also to think about geothermal as an employer of choice. And I think if we can do that, all of your hard work, your minds and your ideas and your bright, let's say, grand challenges are fantastic. And I'm really impressed with what I've heard over the past days. But I, at the same time, also would like to see a, let's say, a concerted call for action to allow people to actually work in geothermal and grow that space for people to dive in and inspire, indeed, the next generation to come and join the world of geothermal. And with that note, I would really like to draw your attention to my final comments, because with that inspiration for inspiring the next generation, I want to say the following things. First of all, thank you, Iceland, once more, for not only hosting me here today, but also hosting the World Geothermal Conference in 2020 in Reykjavik, April 2020. So WGC 2020, for those of you who are online social media lovers, please go to hashtag WGC 2020 and follow not only the World Geothermal Conference, but also Iceland, Georg, the cluster, the initiatives around Iceland on all the activities to promote WGC 2020. Follow the IGA, we are Love Geothermal. And I want to, well, inspire all of you to think about an abstract, because they need to be in 31st of January 2019. Yes, I know that is very early, that's a year and 4 months prior to the conference, but get yourself together, understand what you want to share with the audience in 2020, submit an abstract, and put yourself in the driving seat. Be your change agent yourself. Come and share your story at WG 2020. There will be people from Africa, Indonesia, Asia in general, Pacific, South America, Central America, the North Americas, Europe mainland. We will all be there showcasing updates, best practices, case studies, new ideas, startup, business, entrepreneurs. And I want to thank once more, because one of these banners will be with me for the coming 14 months in every conference I will go to. I made a promise to the Icelanders that I not only thank you, but I also take it with me. So the coming, let's say, 40 months, I will be seen, hopefully, with not only my beautiful IGA slide pack, but also with my banner. Because I thank you, but I also think it is such a nice environment to talk about geothermal and set the agenda for 2040 when we are there in 2020. Thank you.
Thank you, Marit, for a very inspiring speech. And the one that is going to take up your challenge of inspiring the next generation is Sigurður Magnus Garðarsson. He is the chairman of GEORG, and he is both going to give the final presentation and also going to give the closing words for this two-day geothermal workshop. So Sigurður, the floor is yours.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are now to the final presentation of the final session on the final day. So I will try to keep it short, but there are a few things I would like to convey to you. And Marit, thank you very much for being here over the last 2 days. But I think you and the minister have to have a talk about how we pronounce Georg. It's so nice to have you here. Just a few words about GEORG itself. This is kind of our strategic plan. I'm not going to ask you to read it, but as you can see there, it was formed in 2009, and we had kind of an initial period for 3 years where we were kind of forming the cluster and trying to understand what we can do and how we should operate. And as I said in the opening session, the first board meeting was on 18th of February 2009, so we will be 10 years old next February, and we will see what we will do for that. And then in 2013 to 16, we were like the, let's say, the second half of the funding period from the Science Council of Iceland. We kind of developed the cluster, and now over the last 2 years we have continued operating the cluster after the funding period. And so far, or let's say over these 2 or 3 years, it has been quite successful, I think, and we will be able to operate the cluster at least for the next few years without any difficulties, and hopefully develop some interesting opportunities. I'm going to throw up this slide here. These are all the Horizon 2020 projects that we are aware of that are in the European program. And these are 19 projects, and if we mark off the projects that either are led by Icelanders companies, institutes, or the universities, or we are participating in one way or another, it's over half of these projects. So I think that is quite amazing, and I think that's probably the only field in the 2020 program that's the case. So there's quite a bit of activity and a lot of things, and people are looking to Iceland in this field. So I think we can be very proud of that. So I want to mention 2 projects that are ongoing within GEORG, or what we are participating in, and some of you may know of this, KMT, Krafla Magma Testbed, and this is something that we are working very hard on, and we actually had a 2-day meeting on Monday and Tuesday, a working meeting with almost 70 people, and some of you in here participated in that, and we are trying to develop this opportunity to see, to basically create a magma observatory to drill into the magma and see what is there and do some nice research and hopefully be able to harness the energy directly from the magma. So that is one of the big projects that we are trying to develop right now. Another project I want to mention, and actually Marit has already talked quite a bit about this. This is the World Geothermal Congress in 2020, and this is the next big event in the geothermal space, and some people say that this will be the greatest event ever. So, so we are working, so Georg is involved in preparing that with a lot of other people, and this is of course a lot of work, and as Marit said, the first step is to get in the abstracts, and that is the end of January. And so I strongly encourage you to send in the abstracts, and keep in mind that this will probably be a sold-out event. So get your tickets early. All right. I would also like to say that our conference, this conference, the GEORG workshop, is, as you know, a technical conference. Conference focuses on research, focus on technical development. But we have also, with our friends in Icelandic Geothermal, have a different conference which we call IGC, which is run every other year also, and that is taking more from the business perspective and policy perspective. So this conference, that is this workshop that you're at right now, and that conference kind of cover the different end of the spectrum. And what we are going to do, at least with respect to these two conferences, that we are going to not have any conference in 2019 to prepare for the 2020. So there will be a hiatus next year, so we can all be refreshed in 2020. And then we will pick it up again, probably in 2022. So be prepared and send in abstracts. All right, so we are now to the thank you part of my presentation. And a lot of people were involved in preparing for the workshop, and I would like to thank the organizing committee. And you can see the names and the faces there. A lot of work there, and I think they did a fabulous job in creating a great conference. Also our science committee, which took care of reviewing the abstract and setting up the schedule and all of those stuff. So again, a big thanks to them. Then we had an excellent team of student volunteers, and you can see the names here, and some of them are, I think, in the room. Can you raise your hand if you're in the room? Yep, all over there. We very much appreciate your help. And then the staff of GEORG, we are up to 6 persons now, and a lot of things to do, and you can see the team there. But I would like to draw especially attention to Hjalti Páll, which is sitting here in the front, and all of you know him by now. I mean, he has been with GEORG almost from the beginning, and I think I can easily say that GEORG will not be GEORG without Hjalti. I mean, he has been pushing this very hard. He has been solving a lot of problems, drawing people together, taking projects and things to conclusion, and driving things along. So Hjalti, thank you very much. So with that, this is just for you, Marit. Again? Yeah, just to make sure. It's end of January. So with that, I would like to close this workshop. I think it has been very successful. And we have some light refreshments outside, sponsored by our good friends at Landsvirkjun. So enjoy the rest of the day and enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you very much. See you later.
Ég verð svo bara, jú, í því.